afternoon and welcome to the Committee on Education. Today is Monday, April 6th. It's 1:02 p.m. We are in room 229 and this hearing of the Senate Committee on Education. If we must end this hearing due to technical issues, the committee will convene on Wednesday, April 8th at 1 p.m. in conference room 229, and a public notice will be posted on the Hawai'i State Legislature website. And due to number of measures before the committee and volume of testifiers, testimony will be limited to 1 minute. And this hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. Should anything arise, I guess I said that already. Okay, with that, I don't know what happened to the rest of the members. I'm sure they'll be coming in shortly. We will start off with Senate Concurrent Resolution 112 and SR 105. We'll be taking the concurrent resolutions and the resolutions together. So we'll pass resolutions together. Starting off with requesting the University of Hawaii system in collaboration with the Hawaii Teachers Standard Board and other institutions of higher education to require completion of comprehensive coursework in the science of reading as a condition for graduation from any state-approved educator preparation program leading to teachers' licensure. And first we have Deborah Halbert, Dean Murata. Deborah?
Good afternoon, Chair Kim. My name is Debbie Halbert, Vice President for Academic Strategy. I have with us the Dean of the College of Education at the University of Hawaii of Manoa. We'll stand on our written testimony, but I do want to add that in addition to the materials and resources we discussed in our testimony, Hawaii P20, along with the DOE and other partners, have a statewide literacy plan as well as a literacy coalition. So there is active work being done in this area. Both of those groups also promote and include tenets of the science of reading. If you have other questions, I'll be happy to defer to the subject matter experts on that, including Dr. Stephanie Bolo, who's with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't you just sit there? Anyone else? That's the only person in person that has signed up to testify. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? If not, Dean Murata or whoever else want to sit and ask or answer questions? So from the testimony, I'm gathering that you do not want to have this part of the graduation or that embedded into your curriculum, or explain that to me.
Yes, we are, in our testimony, this course, that the Science of Reading course alone, a standalone course, we feel that it doesn't necessarily reflect what we can do to impact the overall teach literacy for all our children, because it's very interdisciplinary, cuts across multiple subject areas. And so I think we feel strong that it is important, but we also feel that, it's not like a one size fits all kinds of thing. So there should be different approaches, and one of which is certainly this area called science of reading.
Okay, so you folks have the science of reading already embedded in your curriculum?
We have components of the science of reading, such as phonetic awareness, comprehension, those kinds of strategies that are already embedded across that we're currently teaching, yes. But we don't call it the science of reading. We have components of the science of reading.
Okay, and is it comprehensive enough to be considered that they've had training in the science of reading?
Well, I don't know if it's comprehensive enough. I do know that there are different strategies that they do use, and one of which, of course, the phonetic awareness and comprehension and word identification, et cetera, are critical components of reading, and we do teach those components along with text-rich context to have that kind of comprehension for students to absorb. So,
okay, do you think that there might be more emphasis on that or further?
Well, I do think as we do a redesign, just let me preface, I am speaking strictly from Manoa perspective. As we do our redesign, we are currently in that process of working closely with the department in revisiting and actually revising our literacy content as we speak.
Okay, okay, why don't you sit down? I want to ask the superintendent to come up.
Okay.
So maybe, Dean, don't go far, Dean, because you're gonna, okay, so Superintendent, you recently made a statement that the Department of Education will conduct statewide professional development in the science of reading. So why is that necessary, or is that lacking as far as teachers are not getting that teaching knowledge, or while they're going to getting their degree? Can you explain that?
Yes, teachers through their experiences are exposed to a variety of different instructional strategies related to reading. The department has been fortunate to receive a CLSD grant, and in that comprehensive literacy development grant, through that grant, we are focused on the science of reading. That is one of the areas that the department is focused on in terms of reading instruction. There are other strategies also, though, that help to support students' growth in reading and teacher professional development. But one of the areas that we are focused on is in the science of reading with the schools that are participating in that grant.
Okay, I feel that the science of reading is very important, but again, I'm wondering whether or not we need to do a better job at the level where the teachers are getting going to school for their degree, that it should be more, then it would be less that the department has to then go back and retrain or redevelop. I mean, there should be some further development down the line, but to what degree were you talking about when you said the department will conduct statewide professional development science of reading, and then what that cost might be? Because if that should be taken care of before they even, become a teacher.
We do have different complex areas and schools that are participating in the CLSD grant, the federal grant. We are also very fortunate to have a good relationship with the University of Hawaii, the College of Education at Manoa, as well as the other colleges that we do have articulation, as was shared earlier, through Hawaii P20, and are focused on that collaboration.
Okay, so the grant, the federal grant, the CLSD grant.
Yes.
How much is it for and how long is it?
I will ask Deputy Armstrong, because she's very instrumental in that grant.
Hi, good afternoon. Heidi Armstrong. Currently, we're in year 2 of a 5-year CLSD2 grant. And to go back to your question, the science of reading is very important. And the pendulum swings, and whole language was all of the talk for many years. And the department has adopted the science of reading model to teach students how to read and write. Our curriculum and our standards support the science of reading modules, science of reading tools to teach a child to read. Through the CLSD2 grant, there is a work group that is with the department and all of our higher ed institutions to talk about the science of reading and what could be beneficial for teachers in their undergraduate program to receive, so that when they graduate with their degree, they could be prepared. Those talks are underway. It would look different from elementary to high school, but every teacher can be a teacher of reading. And so through the grant, that work group has been established and those talks have started.
Okay, so you're in year 2 and the talks have only started as far as better involvement by the university as they create the curriculum for teachers.
Correct. And we're sharing what we're doing, they're sharing their program, and the purpose of the work group is to ensure that both lower ed and higher ed are in alignment with the expectations. So like you said, there doesn't have to be, after a teacher graduates from a program, additional courses in order to teach the standards of the department. So that work has started.
So why, again, that statement that DOE will conduct statewide professional development in the science of reading, I'm still trying to get my arms around that.
We are doing that, so to ensure that every teacher has the tools that they need to instruct through the science of reading methodology. Some teachers come to us with that background, and some teachers are benefiting from this professional development.
Okay, but if we're teaching it or they're getting it while they're getting the degree, while they're going to the program, then why would we need to do this at this level?
Right, that would be beneficial, and that's what we're working toward.
Okay, what happens at the end of the 5 years? Grant? What happens after
We are building capacity within our personnel. We're also collecting our bank of resources so that when the grant does go away, we are still equipped to carry on the work. That's the whole purpose of participating in the grant, is to build that internal capacity.
Okay, and with that, would we get students graduating with the proper degree of reading? Because right now, many students are graduating with lesser grade level of reading.
Yeah, I can answer from the K-12 portion of the grant and our commitment to being part of a work group. And then I'll turn it over to the university to finish the second half of your question.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the work on the grant, so I'm not sure if one of our subject, if Dean Murata knows about the grant. Yeah, or,
I'm not on the committee, but I speak on people. Hello, my name is Stephanie Bulow. I'm a faculty in the College of Education. I'm personally not sitting on the CLSD work group grant, that committee, but from my colleagues that are serving on it, it's my understanding that they've been coming together with the institutes of higher ed in our state and faculty, or the Department of Education, with conversations around structured literacy and best approaches to ensuring that all of our students are graduating with the ability to read and comprehend and engage in society, proficient in reading.
Okay. I guess I'm sitting here. I mean, isn't that a basic? Reading is a basic that has been around for centuries, and it seems like only now we're looking at these types of programs to get students to learn to read. What have we been doing 10, 20 years ago? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem odd that it's only now, all of a sudden, and you're in a year 2 of a 5-year grant that will finally give us the light bulb goes off on how we're going to teach students to read. Am I being facetious about that? I mean, isn't that kind of weird?
I can't speak to the work of the grant. I can speak to the 5 pillars of reading that were mentioned in the proposal. And I would tell you that those were part of my teacher preparation program over 25 years ago. I don't think that some of the content is new, but there has been renewed efforts and interest to really focus instruction around best practices and evidence-based practices. And I would say that teaching is a field where we are lifelong learners and constantly looking at our practice and in our development and our understanding, and continually making sure that we're staying ahead and current with current research and practices. And I believe that that's the work of the grant, although again, I can't speak personally. I'm not on the grant. I didn't write the grant, and I'm also not on that committee.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems, your explanation is so plausible, but it just seems that the way it's going about, that it's going to take, because 5 years into this grant, and that if it's you're already embedded and you already have learned all that basics, then shouldn't it be more simplistic in that how we upgrade and renew or update the program, instead of having to wait 5 years or go through a 5-year program or 5-year grant? Couldn't that grant money be used for something probably, I don't know. I'm not a teacher, but it doesn't seem, it seems very, I don't know, like we're duplicating efforts, or we're just spending money to spend money, or I don't know.
I would say that the reading process is a very complex process. That doesn't answer your question about the 5 years. But, in terms of really coming to understand all that goes into how to read, it is a very complex process, and there's a lot of different aspects to it in terms of, understanding what the sounds mean, putting them together, having the background knowledge to comprehend.
Are we making it more complicated than it is? I mean, when I learned, see Dick run, see Jay spot, see spot. I mean, I don't know. Was it that complicated when I went to school? And I learned to read and be on a level that allowed me to go to college and get a degree. So I'm not sure how complicated are we making this for our kids? I mean, are we reading more into it than we should be, or are we trying to, get them so confused and then they don't know how to read? I don't know what the issue is, but certainly these questions should be asked, because common sense tells you that, I don't know, if it wasn't broken, is it broken now?
I would say that students, perhaps like you and me, it wasn't complicated at all for us, because clearly we are here where we are today. But there are students that do struggle with reading, and I think part of the work that we've been doing is to make sure that we're serving all students and ensuring that everyone has what they need when they leave.
Then why don't we just single out or acknowledge those that have trouble and spend the money on them instead of trying to change the whole system? Because again, one size doesn't fit all. So why wouldn't we be doing that instead of trying to just change everything or making it so complicated that, again, I don't know if common sense have a role in any of this.
I do agree one size does not fit all, which is why we were against this legislation or this proposal.
But then at the same time, DOE is saying they want to go ahead and have this, exact words, professional development in the science of reading, conduct a statewide professional development in science of reading. So I'm just trying to figure out and add it up. Does it make sense? Are we spending funds and time on an area that maybe doesn't require this kind of level? And if we embed it into their learning as they are going to school, the teachers are going to school, shouldn't that satisfy that with periodic updates?
I don't want to speak for the Department of
Yes,
Education.
and
I
I
will
don't
just
mean
say
to put
one
you on
last
the
thing for
spot.
teacher preparation, and then maybe I'll turn it back to them. But in terms of teacher preparation, I think about learning to become a teacher, and specifically learning to become a teacher who is able to teach all students how to read. I think of it as an iceberg, and we're able to give them the tip of the iceberg in their pre-service programs. But again, I believe that they need to be lifelong learners and staying current with current research and trends, and that's what I don't want to speak to intentions, but that's what it appears to be. But maybe I should turn those questions back.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm
No,
just
not
like,
at all.
Yeah,
Not at
because
all.
obviously it seems like my teachers didn't know how to teach people how to read, but we did learn how to read. So, right? Thank you. Zoe? Okay, see the dilemma that I'm in? I don't know if you share my dilemma, but. You want to have a question?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can speak to this or not, but how do you folks have any kind of results, since we're 2 years into the 5 years part of the program? Any kind of measurements so far?
We do. We have data on the CLSD grant and what has been accomplished. We do have results. This is CLSD 2, so we have results from CLSD 1, yes.
And then after the 5 years, do you folks will be intending on appropriating funds if this needs to be further pursued?
Well, I think that the grant is much more comprehensive than just the components of the science of reading. It talks about literacy coaching. It talks about the different interventions for what you were just discussing before, the different needs of different learners. So it is comprehensive, and the science of reading is one component of that. Do some of our teachers have that understanding it absolutely. And even those that do, like it was just shared, teachers are lifelong learners, and it never hurts to hear information again and to continue learning. So it's not a detriment to those who understand and can implement the science of reading, but it is a great benefit for those who haven't had.
Yeah, well, I think it hurts when taxpayers are funding for programs to teach teachers, to teach students how to read. So I think that's where, at least as far as my perspective is trying to hone in on the funding mechanism part of it, where right now you guys are getting grants, but this is a continual pattern that we see with Department of Education, that when these position fundings run out, come over to the ledge. When these programs funding run out, you come over to the ledge. So again, I think just being able to be fiscally responsible and tightening up on that.
Sure.
Yeah, just to follow up, I agree that, it doesn't hurt. Of course, it doesn't hurt. But again, in the priority of things, are we getting the monies down to the classroom? Are we identifying those kids that really need the additional help? And how is this funding can go directly to help them, than trying to redo a whole program to make sure, because we're never going to catch everybody in one whole program. You've got to identify the ones that need help and then go from there. So again, I hope the department are really focusing in on how are we helping those that need to be helped, and not necessarily trying to again do professional development for all when it's not necessarily needed as far as our funding wise, because we don't have all the money in the world. If we did, yes, but we don't. And I think DOE somehow forget that, because they just keep adding and your budget keeps growing. It's 1/3 of the budget, so.
No, but exactly, and to your point, that is the focus of the CLSD2 grant, is to focus on what we call Tier 2 and Tier 3, the students who didn't get it or are not getting it the first time, and really honing in on those kids. So what you said just now is correct. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you, H, so how would you recommend us amending this resolution?
I think that the recommendation is to think about how you integrate this type of learning across the curriculum. Another piece of the science of learning, as I've come to understand in the last few days as we're learning about it, is that for Hawaii, there's a lot to do with second language students and multicultural learners that would be useful, that isn't the underlying thrust of the science of learning curriculum, which is more of a national curriculum that doesn't think about the unique context of Hawaii. So for us, I think what's important is to try to adapt those techniques to our local context. So if there were amendments that allowed us to have that flexibility, I think it would be useful.
Why don't you propose
Some language.
tomorrow?
Okay.
Some language for this.
That sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay,
Thank you.
Moving on, because I don't just want to pass a resol to pass a resol. I want to make sure it has some teeth in it. Senate concurrent resolution 14, SR 107. This is requesting the auditor could conduct quarterly performance and management audits of the Department of Education and its attached agencies. We have Keith Hayashi.
Aloha, Chair Kim, Senator of the Court. Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony, which provides comments on this measure. The Hawaii State Department of Education supports the oversight goals of SCR 114 and SR 107, but urges the legislature to narrowly define the scope of the proposed performance and management audit to minimize the diversion of resources away from the department's primary educational mission. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Office of the Auditor. Les Kondo, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm Les Kondo, I'm the auditor. This resolution requests that we do 4 performance audits every year of the Department of Education.
We want to see you 4 times a year.
I don't
Just
think,
kidding.
I think the department is welcome to see me more often. The next resolution that you're considering is also another request to do a performance audit of the Department of Education, the different levels of upper management positions. There's a resolution on Wednesday that also asks us to do an audit of the Department of Education's CIP projects. we can't do it all. We don't even have the capacity to do the audit the 4 audits that's requested annually in this resolution. I do have a suggestion. So we have issued 2 audits and a report about the Department of Education, different programs, different aspects, small programs, within the last year or so, starting with a report about the Department of Education's implementation of the air conditioning initiative. I know my time is up.
Go ahead. Continue.
And we issued another report about the Department of Education's driver education program, an audit of that program, and more recently, an audit of the department's farm-to-school program or achieving the meals mandate that the legislature established. That one was issued about a month or so ago, a little over a month ago. In all 3 reports, the primary finding that's consistent in all 3 is we found the department did not have any controls, no policies, no procedures with respect to any 3 of those programs that they're in charge of or charged to implement. So I assume that the reason why we have these 3 resolutions is because the legislature or the introducer of the resolutions feels like there's some concerns or issues with whatever aspect of the Department of Education that we're asked to review. Because of the consistent lack of controls that we've identified in the past 3 audits and the 1 report, my thought would be, and I don't know what the audit plan is of the Internal Audit Office, but my thought would be that may be a different opportunity to address the concerns that the introducers of these resolutions, may have, because the Internal Audit Office is in charge or responsible for ensuring that the department appropriately managed risks. And those risks would be managed through proper controls, meaning policies, procedures, other ways to ensure that the program achieves its mission in accordance with how management has decided the mission should be achieved. And that also allows management to be able to review and assess performance by those who are charged directly with the day-to-day operations. So without knowing what the Office of Internal Audit's audit program would be, without knowing how the Board of Education may consider amending that audit program so that they could address some of the concerns that these 3 resolutions are requesting us to audit, perhaps that's a different way to achieve some assurance that the department does in fact have controls in place. They have identified the risks that would cause the program not to achieve whatever its purpose or mission is. And maybe that's a different way that could more effectively and efficiently achieve the legislature's goal of understanding whether there's a structure in place that ensures or helps to minimize the risk to achieving whatever the purpose of the program is. Hope that was understandable. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that would be my thought. And like I said earlier, we just don't have the capacity to do 4 audits a year, let alone the other 2 audits that are requested in the other 2 concurrent resolutions. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? You were the last one to testify, that's why I said to continue. Not giving you special treatment. But, anyone else? Questions?
Department of Transportation?
Transportation.
Education. Sorry, we have a water main breaking on a coulee, so I have transportation on my mind. Thank you, Superintendent. So in your testimony, you had mentioned that these audits being conducted would take away from operational duties and responsibilities. Whose responsibility is it to provide the information to the state auditor?
In whichever area that the state,
Performance as example.
whatever area that the auditor asks of us, of the department, depending on what area that is, it would be the personnel in that area that we need to gather all of the information based on the request from the auditor.
Okay. You know what, do you mind if I pull up the state auditor at the same time? Really quick, so thank you so much. When you request for information from the Department of Education, how long typically does it take you to receive the information so you can conduct your audit?
Well, it could be a week, it could be a couple weeks. It depends on what information we're requesting. Air conditioning, that report, we never got some of the information because the department either didn't maintain it or it was lost somehow. other programs where they have the information. It's not like, it's relatively, they're relatively responsive, if that's the question, if they have the
Yes.
information.
So
Yes.
it sounds like you guys are able to turn over your data or your reporting fairly within a reasonable amount of time. Do you think that it might be possible to redirect this conversation to supporting these efforts, saying if it does on a best case scenario, take maybe about a week? I think administratively it would be
The
worth it.
time, the time that it takes, we're very, it's very important for us to get the state auditor the information that he needs. So what it does, though, in that amount of time, it does take our personnel that's within that respective area to do the research, to do the data collection and so forth, which is very extensive. So we are able to get the information to the auditor in whatever period of time that it takes. But it does pull our personnel away from the work that they're doing, so they're able to answer the state auditor's questions.
And just to be clear, these people that are gathering this research and this information would probably be deputy superintendents.
It would be at all levels.
Oh, okay. So therefore, we'll just say theoretically, it's deputy superintendents, just for the sake of the conversation. They would have a staff that would be able to research this, correct?
The information based on whatever audit area that the state auditor is doing would be, it's a comprehensive audit, so it's at all levels that we need to pull
Yeah.
our people to be able to answer the questions.
May I comment on
ahead.
that?
Yes.
I think that often, or most often, we do not ask for records from the deputy superintendent. It's down at the program level.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I personally believe transparency and accountability is well worth the week worth of data, or maybe a few weeks worth of data to provide that transparency to taxpayers.
This process takes a long time partly because we follow audit standards. Farm to school, we had a birthday on the audit, meaning it lasted longer than a year. It was about a 13-month audit. So notwithstanding the fact that we're getting documents within a week or a couple weeks, we're interviewing people and scheduling those, per their, where they have availability. That process, it takes a long time. And often we're interviewing people multiple times, people down at the program level that are critical for us to understand what the program looks like. And then again, later on, when we have objectives, to understand what they do with respect to that specific audit objective. So it's a process. So it is not as simple or as quick as, it's only 1 week. It is a process.
So do you find this to be pretty common when you audit other departments? It seems to get really convoluted.
The process doesn't change, partly because we are following government auditing standards. The cooperation that we get from departments, it does vary. So Department of Education is certainly on the plus side. We have issues now with some ongoing audits about the information that we're able to get and the timeliness of that information. I say that about the department, but we had issues with whether or not they had documents, where the documents were. So when they are able to locate documents, they are very responsive in providing us those documents. There are documents that you'd expect them to have that they don't have. That's a different issue. I will say, if I can just make another comment, I didn't see the superintendent's testimony, and I appreciate the fact that he values an audit, because we are a resource for the legislature, the public, and the department to provide some free assessment as to how the program is performing. But really, the first level of that is his office and below. They should be assessing program performance and holding people accountable for doing their job. Our job is to come in and help you folks understand how a program that you've created and you fund, how, even though you're getting reports from the department, how they're really doing. So we get to dig deeper than perhaps you guys get to dig, and that's our value. But there's still responsibility by management to do its job, which means to hold the department accountable and the people who are running programs accountable for doing their job and achieving program mission and program goals. In the audits that I mentioned, or the report and the 2 audits, certainly that was not the case. They were not achieving the mission or the goals of both of those programs, or in being able to be accountable for the $100 million that was appropriated to the department to air condition the 1,000 classrooms.
And that is why these resolutions and these audits are surfacing, because of those things. And the fact that, you shouldn't have to wait for an audit to know what is going on and what is faulty in your area. I watched the whole presentation to the Board of Education on the local food.
Farm to school.
Farm to school. And, kept hearing from Sean saying, oh, we really appreciate the audit. You've pointed out all of these things. Now we know what to do. Now we're going to do it. What do you mean now? What do you mean you needed an audit to tell you that? And that's the problem. You guys need audits to tell you folks everything, and that shouldn't be. It shouldn't be putting the cart before the horse.
Just to clarify the farm to school audit, Senator, we do appreciate the state auditor's recommendations that he provided to us for the farm to school audit. I think what Assistant Superintendent Tajima was sharing was that we are in the process, we have already started actually all of the processes to address the recommendation. I think it was
Yeah, it's
15
still too late.
recommendations of the state auditor. I think what was also shared.
I watched the whole thing, so I know.
Okay.
I know what he shared. Okay, and still, I think that you folks are far behind what you should have been doing. And you shouldn't have to wait for an auditor. And that is why we're saying that, because it's through the auditor, every single one of the audits, the last 3-4 audits, had the same problem. And the fact that you don't even have the records is another issue. So, they were left without it being able to do a lot. And again, this falls on the department.
The audit that Leslie's referring to for the air conditioning audit, that was actually, if I'm not mistaken, that project started
I know it started
pre-COVID.
way before you, but some of the people in your departments have been there, were there for it, and they should have gotten the records. And whether they did or didn't, the people that came in after, you hired them to do a job, and they should be doing that job, and yet they wait for an audit to figure out that we don't have the records? I mean, that's terrible.
And the driver's ed audit, Senator, we did, I believe by the time we responded to the audit, we had all of the recommendations were met, except for, I believe, one that had to do with the statute. Administrative rules, thank you.
Yeah, but Superintendent, you didn't even know that the program was mandatory. You wrote a whole letter 3 months later, after they had asked for you to comment, and you didn't, and 3 months later, you sent in a letter saying you don't agree with everything he put forward, and when he came back, then you said, oh yeah, okay, you're right. I mean, come on. Right? We didn't even know that. That I don't know, that's not acceptable. Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you. Okay, we are moving on to SR 198 and SR 186, requesting the auditor to conduct a comprehensive performance and fiscal audit of the governance structure of the administrative leadership of the Department of Education. And again, Superintendent, you are up. Okay.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Senator Hashimoto, Tammy Chun, Deputy Superintendent. We provided a lot of detail and references and links in the written testimony, but I'll summarize. The Department of Education shares the legislature's goal of ensuring that funds are used efficiently and to maximize resources for learning. We respectfully offer comments on this resolution. We have a number of steps in place that cover the content of this particular resolution regarding the administration of the Department of Education. So first of all, in terms of the types of review we're doing of executive administration, one, the Board Audit Committee, the Board of Education restarted a standalone audit committee. Second, we conducted an external review of the state office organization in 2024. We are taking action on those recommendations from the Council of Great City Schools. Third, we have been in the process of reorganization, looking at starting with our state offices. That includes having the Board of Education approve any changes regarding establishing or abolishing a new office or state-level office or complex area. We have completed 11 reorganizations that were effective as of July 1, 2025, are in the process of doing another 18 reorganizations of state offices this year. Fourth, regarding fiscal and performance data, the Department of Education completed an executive compensation study last year. We have, on the Board of Education, establish performance targets for the Department of Education that are incorporated in the superintendent's evaluation. And finally, we do an annual fiscal and compliance audit. So we are proactive in looking at these issues identified in the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of the Auditor.
Les Kondo, I'm the auditor. I don't think I have anything to add more than what I was talking about on the first concurrent resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions specific to this resolution, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Johnny May Perry? Not here. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing on questions. Tammy? So all of this work that you folks are doing and all of these reorganizations, any of it then reveal that the superintendent couldn't create positions that last longer than 1 year?
The current work we're doing did not address the issue of creating the topic you
Well,
just
this goes
mentioned.
back to governance, right? This goes back with why we're asking for audits. Goes back to the whole governance issue. The fact that we don't even know that, isn't that troublesome? That it's in the statute, and we don't know, or the DOE does not know?
So just to be clear, we are aware of the Hawaii Revised Statutes 302A, 1116, that gives superintendent authority to create temporary positions. The work that we've been doing around reorganization is separate than that particular issue.
But that ordinance, I mean, that law, right, the next line says it. So when you guys look at the law, you guys don't see the rest of the law? I mean, it's not a big old 10-page thing. It's half a page. Half a page, like 5 sentences. And it's right there.
So I guess, Senator, I'm trying to, I want to be responsive to your question, but trying to understand
Well, okay.
what you're asking
What
in
I'm
terms of
asking-
the work we're doing with
What I'm
reorganization.
asking is, you folks are saying that you don't want this you don't want this resolution because you're doing all of these things, right? And I'm saying that, yes, you're doing all of these things, so, but is that going to make you more cognizant of what's in the law? Is it going to make you folks, I mean, better? No, it doesn't seem to.
So I would say that we are, the reorganizations are making us better. It's
I
making
think it's
things
the
more
audits that are
aligned.
making you better, right? It's the audits. Obviously, these are things that any reorganization have not uncovered.
I guess, Senator, I would say that the audits have covered that, the auditor has mentioned, have covered very specific subject matter, and the particular work we're doing is broader than what the audits have covered.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you could stay, thank you so much. In your testimony, you had shared about the board's audit committee overseeing compliance and controls. And I think my concern is that how is that oversight, I guess, translate into, because right now the department is really top-heavy right now. And so I see the board's audit committee as being more of a conflict than it is for providing transparency and accountability.
So I guess I'll take the statements in order. So the first one is, when we look at data comparing the Hawaii Department of Education to other districts and to other states, we are not top-heavy. Our percent spent on administration is less than our counterparts, our peer organizations.
When you say compared to other districts, you guys are not top-heavy. What districts? We're talking about the whole department.
So when we look at the the NCES data, the National Commission on Education of the States, that compares information across the different states, we have less spent on administration than other states, for example, and we have similar information about districts. So we have more of our resources in terms of the budget being spent for our schools.
I mean, it's a little unfair to say that you folks are not as top-heavy compared to other states because we have a much smaller population. So I don't know what you're comparing that to.
So that would be when we compare on similar metrics such as percent of budget, or when we look at the percentage of our ratio of administrators to students, or we would find that we're more efficient administratively or spending less administratively than peers. But to the audit question, you also asked questions about the audit committee. So the audit committee, it had been consolidated with the board's FIC committee, Finance and Infrastructure Committee, and then recently separated as a standalone committee. I think the committee the idea would be to bring the audits to that committee, and I think that just brings more transparency to the process.
So has the board's audit committee ever found the same reportings that our state auditor has found, whether it be with the ACs in the classroom, driver's license, food to table, farm to table, reports that the state auditor has found?
So the committee, the standalone committee was recently reestablished. The standalone audit committee of the board was recently reestablished, and it met last month, and it reviewed the farm to school, and I believe Senator was referencing that she watched that meeting.
So this is a new committee or new members?
It's newly established as a standalone committee with its own charter.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I just don't see how. Yeah, go ahead, Chair.
No, I mean, it's interesting how it has to be a standalone before the audit division or audit committee or whatever it was embedded into the board, then would follow these things. I mean, it's just, again, mind-boggling that we got to go through these different steps before we get true audits or true reports on what is actually going on in the department, and the department should be knowing what that is. I have a question for the auditor. So I understand your testimony, and I understand that some of these were asking for large bites and that you want us to narrow it down, possibly, or moving it over to the internal office, which I will be making some recommendations. So in the light of the fact that the DOE didn't even know that they could create positions, or the superintendent could create positions, but it was 1 year limited. So you think that an audit on the process of the superintendent in creating these positions could be audited?
I think so. I think that perhaps there would also be a part of that maybe that we would also consider looking at, or legislature could consider asking us to look at the Board of Education's oversight over that. I mean, the board's responsible for holding the superintendent accountable.
Okay, so an audit of the process by which the administrative and program positions are created, you could do that, and that also the Board of Education's role in that. Is that what you're saying? And then what about looking at the review of the department's supervision and evaluations of complex area superintendents?
We can do that for sure.
Okay, so if we narrow
Because that's
it
a
down to
process
those
that we
two
can
things.
look at. I think for the committee, my suggestion would be that because there's so many audits in the legislature that are being requested, and then more specifically to the Department of Education, that there needs to be some process by which the committee, or maybe the legislature more generally, prioritizes the ones that they think are more important to them. Honestly, for me personally, I would suggest the CIP projects, looking at the CIP program that the department has in their process to oversee and manage that program, which is the concurrent resolution that's set for Wednesday. That to me sounds much more interesting than assessing the superintendent's authority to create temporary positions and the oversight of CASs. I got you, but
Performance.
I suppose though, from the last few years, I recall there being issues with monies lapsing, and I mean, we see
That's what we have.
schools that are not, construction not moving forward.
Well, we're
So
glad you're going to find that interesting to do, so.
anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, members? Okay, if not, we are moving on. We are on Senate Concurrent Resolution 101, Senate Resolution 95, urging Department of Education in coordination with the Board of Education to develop a plan to transition the school buses used for public transportation to electric buses to expand the benefits already demonstrated in other places. And we have Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Jesse Suki, Deputy Superintendent of Operations. We provide comments on this resolution, but in summary, we support the intent of the bill to reduce the carbon footprint of the state and the DOE, but we have some concerns about the resolution as proposed. The department doesn't have a fleet of buses, it's through vendors. The cost is very prohibitive, as we talk about in our testimony. The infrastructure for charging is not there at the moment, something that the department doesn't control. And the third point we wanted to make was that there used to be an EPA federal program that provided support for this kind of transition, but the current administration has stopped that program, so that opportunity is no longer there. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Let's see, anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing none, questions? Members, any questions? Senator Hashimoto.
Dewey. So I guess when they had this specific program in place, did the DOE actually seriously consider what were the pros and the cons of trying to accommodate something like this?
My understanding is that we did support vendors who were interested in benefiting from the program. It's a reimbursement program, so they need to upfront purchase the bus, put the bus that they're replacing out of service, and show evidence of that, and other things before they get the reimbursement through the department, through the EPA. We know of, well, I know of one charter school that was able to take advantage of the program.
So when was the department, did the department ever embark on a study to see if, it would be less expensive for you to own the bus and then let the third party then run it, right? Like, I think I'm sure that's how the city, and I know Maui County operates in that manner. They own the physical asset, but there's a third party, contractor maintaining it and running it, to just get a baseline understanding of, is there any synergies or efficiencies? Because I think that's how they are being able to achieve these, at least hybrid buses at this point, right? Versus I don't see any progress, at least in the school bus side of it.
Yeah, I think the way the bus for the city is run is real different. They have an economies of scale. They have many more routes, and they own the fleet, but they have a contract for operators, which the city pays for. They do have some electric buses for the shorter in-town routes. It's just really different for how DOE runs its bus system. We do have, and I'm aware of, we have done sort of a back of the napkin kind of assessment of, if we were to bring all the buses in-house and we ran it, how much it would cost, and it's significantly
No,
more
but that's
than.
not what we're asking, right?
Yeah.
That's not what we want. I think what you gotta look at is, are there models out there that we can look at and potentially adapt to? But I think the first thing is just seeing if there's some type of feasibility assessment. So you guys haven't done that then?
Well, I have my bus administrator here. Just let me turn and see. Have we in the past done an assessment like that? No.
Because are there federal funds that we're leaving on the table that we know of?
Not at this time, because the program was.
Right, but is there no other ways, federal DOT or anything else that that we're not getting access to?
We can certainly explore that. We're supportive, again, of the intent.
Because I think if you say that, it's not necessarily working, you got to look at a lot of the school districts on the mainland. There must be something to it if a lot of them are owning their own buses, right? If they don't necessarily contract it out because they have their school district all across the United States, they own those buses likely, or they have some type of some type of partnership that allows them to put their name on it. So I would assume there's something out there that we may be missing, or can you bifurcate it? Is there a different model for the neighbor islands versus Oahu, right? But I think if we're just going to keep doing the status quo, it doesn't help any of us because we're just not going to change, and we don't know if we're not going to continually assess, right? So I hope that we can start to look at it. I think that to me, that was the spirit of the reso, I think, but I think we have a lot of area that we should be continually looking at to make this more efficient. I know it's not a core function, but I think it's a really important business function of the DOE.
I agree that we should continuously look into it. I do, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 113 SR 106, requesting Department of Education to submit a report to the legislature detailing farm to school implementation, local food procurement, regional kitchen alignment, and federal farm to school grant participation. And we do have the Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Jesse Suki, Deputy Superintendent of Operations. We stand on our testimony with comments, but essentially, in summary, our testimony is asking that we not repeat what's already required by statute. We report many of these items in 302A-405.6. And the part of the resol that talks about local purchasing, we're actually working on a strategic plan in a response to the audit to get that local purchasing strategic plan in place. So we'd like the opportunity and flexibility to report on these items through those existing work activity that we're doing.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Sharon Hurd from Department of Ag, not here. And Johnny May Perry in support, not here. Okay, members, questions? I just have a question, Jesse. Okay, so this resolution that is been introduced by Senator Del Cruz, and he is well aware of the farm to school, the regional kitchen. He's well aware of the audit. So why do you think this resolution is being introduced? If you're already reporting all of this, and he's very much aware of these things.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Did you guys contact him to ask?
not yet.
Why not? You folks knew about this. You obviously said you wanted it to be combined, or already responded, so why wouldn't you contact the author of the measure to find out why? Obviously, there's areas that is probably not satisfactory, that's already passed, or I would assume that he's very much aware of all of this, right?
I would assume he's very involved, yes.
So why wouldn't you have contacted him?
We will, that's a good recommendation. I'm sorry that we haven't.
Okay. Any other questions, members? Hearing none, thank you. Okay, SR 194, SR 183. This is urging the Department of Education to meet the criteria necessary to officially recognize cheerleading as a Title IX sport in Hawaii. And we have, sure, we have the Department of Education. Yes. Okay, Department of Ed.
Good afternoon, Chair Kim, members of the committee. Sean Bacon speaking on behalf of the department. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Just to give a little bit of context too, in 2024, the DOE recently initiated girls flag football. Additionally, this past school year, surfing was recognized as a sport. And I think recognizing cheerleading as a sport will provide additional opportunities for our students. So we stand ready for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Lasman Chain? I'm sorry, I didn't say your name correctly.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yasmin Cheney for the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women. Tortilla, that's what we got to always remember. The two L's are like a Y.
Okay.
I stand on our written testimony in support of these resos because equitable access to athletic opportunities is a core component of gender equity, and Title IX remains a critical tool in ensuring that women and girls receive fair treatment in educational settings, including sports. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Thank you. Jody Lynn Bill in support. Susan Hawes also in support. Anyone else wishing to testify, Ms. Chair? If not, Sean, can we have you back up? We certainly appreciate the fact, well, I don't know if everybody, certainly I do, appreciate the fact that women's girls flag football
Correct.
was instituted. How long has girls flag football been around?
I'm going to turn it over to our Gender Equity and Athletics Administrator, Dana Takahara Diaz, to help answer a few of these questions.
Aloha, thank you for the question. So we are proud to say that we are in our second year of a full-fledged girls flag football
Right.
season.
But how long before that was there any kind of organized flag football for girls?
Not at the interscholastic level, but it is a very big sport in the community youth level.
Okay. How long has cheerleading been around?
It has been around since 1999 with the
1999.
Maui League having the first competition.
Okay, so why is it that cheerleading has not been considered a sport and you did flag football before you even did cheerleading?
That
How
is a very
possible?
good question, and I really appreciate it. We are under federal court law that in 2010 did not recognize competitive cheer as a Title IX sport. But most importantly, to note that the courts left the competitive cheer open. It didn't bar having competitive cheer as a sport, but it needed to be better organized with rules and a robust schedule. So that's where we're at now in Hawaii, and that's where where we exist, is we are working towards meeting their criteria as based by the Office for Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Education.
But Dana, you're saying 2010. This is 2026.
So,
Took you
yes.
guys 16 years to figure out how to organize cheerleading, and yet you did girls flag football within no time at all.
So
And I'm
there-
not barring or saying we shouldn't have that. I'm just saying, how do we have a sport like cheerleading that's been around for decades?
Yes.
And then you folks knew from 2010, you need to organize it better, but it didn't take place.
So there are 31 states, including the District of Columbia, that recognizes competitive cheer as a Title IX sport. So we are one of the emerging sports that we believe, with some changes in our interscholastic competitive cheer program, to have a robust competitive season, we will meet the criteria as stated in the Office of Civil Rights. So that's where we're at today.
I know where you're at today, I'm just saying, why only today? How come you folks weren't like 2015, 2016? I mean, why has it taken 2020, 2021? Why has it taken so long to not acknowledge cheerleading, which although it has boys in it, but it's primarily a girls' sport?
You're absolutely correct. And last year, our numbers, we had over 500 student athletes across the state.
You're making my argument again. Why has it taken, again, the department this long? Maybe you can answer that.
That's a very good question, but I think what we're really wanting to do is ensure that we're trying to have equitable access for all of our students across the department.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we've been wanting that for day one of cheerleading, or maybe year 10 of cheerleading. I don't understand. I mean, why do you guys drag your feet when it comes to women's sports? And we know that there needs equity. We know it has to be done, but why is it taking so long? And why do we have to do a resolution? I know you're saying you're doing it, but again.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the pipeline for us to continue to do at this point right now.
So
I mean,
when is it gonna be official and done?
So we are recognizing the fact that we are meeting the criteria. So the leagues, all 4 public school leagues, are working right now to increase their number of competitions. So this next school year, you will find all leagues having a robust competitive season that's aligned with other varsity sports. So that was the only component, Senator Kim, that we did not meet for OCR standards to count that as a Title IX sport. So now we are working to ensure that our criteria is met with a robust competitive season.
So when will it start, when it's actually
So we are very hopeful. We have had meetings that every league is committed to increasing their number of competitions next school year.
so not this coming school year?
We have already completed our competitive season. Our cheer was in the fall.
Okay, so it's gonna be, okay, but, so the fall of 2026, no?
Yes,
That's what we're aiming
that
for.
is our goal.
That is your goal to make it.
All leagues will meet the criteria.
How were you guys able to do girls flag football so fast?
That one was a unique sport because it did not have current case law that stated it wasn't a sport. And then we met the criteria based on the Office of Civil Rights, and that was a joint partnership between donations and the NFL, and we were able to get that sport going in 2 years' time. But it was something that was in the works. There was discussions previous about flag football, but we're very grateful that the timing was right to add a new sport for the girls' flag.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
SR 195 and 192, requesting the Board of Education in collaboration with the Department of Education to revise public high school graduation requirement to include successful completion of a standalone financial literacy course. And recommendation is, okay. Keith Hayashi, Department of Education, or Heidi?
Good afternoon, Chair Kim, members of the committee, Heidi Armstrong, Department of Education. The department provided comments on SCR 195, and in our comments, we highlighted our upcoming 26-27 school year requirement for students to complete a flexible, standards-aligned financial literacy opportunity before graduation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David Miyashiro, testifying for Hawaii Kids Can. Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha, Chair Kim, Senator DeCourt, Senator Hashimoto. We're in strong support of this measure. I was actually part of the working group established by the Department of Ed and Board of Ed in 2024. And I'll never forget, we had a student representative, I believe from Campbell High School, and she said, whether or not we make financial literacy mandatory in our schools, it is mandatory in real life, so we can't avoid it. We had a grant to go out and engage with community members and students across every island, and continually we heard this is one of their number one concerns. They see a world with cryptocurrency, with gambling, with AI. There was just a headline in the New York Times that said young graduates face the grimmest job market in years. So the PTP is a good start. Putting financial literacy in there is a good start, but it won't fully address equity concerns. And lastly, in the fall, the department had collected a number of testimonials through a public survey. We have not seen those results yet. And we also haven't had a further conversation or debate at the Board of Ed level about graduation requirements. So the PTP decision was done outside of the board discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. You might want to sit there. We have Johnny May Perry, who's not here. So David, can you come forward? So you sat on the task force.
Correct.
Right? And the task force expressed concern that PTP integration may be too late for effective instruction. Is that
Yes.
correct? And standalone course identified as a preferred pathway to ensure skills, support, and accountability. Right?
Correct.
So was that all shared with the DOE and with the Board of Education?
Yes, so the task force, the role of the task force was not to select one path forward, but really debate the pros and cons. And it had folks from every walk of life there, including the financial organizations. But yes, those were some of the challenges that I brought up. And I believe the report itself was something like 160 pages. So that was presented to the Board of Education, I believe that summer of 2024. But there was no action taken. It was purely
So they had enough
for
time
discussion.
to read the
Correct.
report, right?
Yeah, and as far as we've tracked the board agendas, there hasn't actually been a formal agenda item looking at the graduation requirements to add financial literacy. In January of this year, the department announced the change related to PTP. But I think because PTP is already part of the existing graduation requirements, anything that goes into the cocktail that makes up the PTP doesn't necessarily need board approval, which is why I think putting the financial literacy piece there happened so abruptly, in my opinion.
So why do you think they didn't want to put it so that the board approves? I mean, why would they just stick it in as a cocktail and not as a main course?
speculating. I do think that in order to provide a high quality, and I focus on high quality, financial literacy experience for every single graduating student, that will be a conversation about money and priorities and timing and schedules, right? But again, as that young woman shared in the task force meeting, our students are going to be expected to deal with a world that requires them to have financial literacy. And so I think it's worth the time, the effort, and money to discuss how to make that possible, and so that we're not sending our kids out into a world once they cross that stage and they're being taken advantage of scams all over social media, cryptocurrency, and people losing their meager life savings. And so I think if there is a conversation worth having, this is one of those topics that absolutely should be at the board level.
So what are you guys doing as a group to urge or to get the Board of Education to recognize this and to have a discussion, full-on discussion about it?
We've reached out to a number of the board members, and so the process for getting an item on the board agenda isn't always the clearest to me. But we've been, as much as possible, kind of raising awareness to them. And like I said, we've had a grant funded campaign to actually go out and have conversations with the community. So we've done our own survey and have shared those results with each of the board members and the board staff as well. So I hope that there will be some board agenda item in the near future where we can kind of give this topic the time it deserves.
So do you think we need to look at the makeup of the board to ensure that we have accountability by the board in some of these areas, that the legislature itself has introduced bills, not just resolutions, but bills, to have financial literacy as part of the, not an elective, and not where students can just go on when they have time to watch a video, that it be embedded into the whole curriculum and possibly be a requirement for graduation. That obviously, I don't know, your report is not enough for them to be held accountable to why they haven't even had a discussion?
My guess is that I think unlike the legislature, folks don't necessarily know the Board of Education members. And so while you folks meet with students and the State Student Council and some of these different organizations, and again, if you spend any time with students and ask them what they care about, financial literacy is inevitably going to come up. But the Board of Education, as far as I've seen, doesn't necessarily have the same mechanisms for providing that engagement. Because I'm sure if board members spoke with students as often as I do, as often as you folks do, I would hope that financial literacy would rise to the level of priority. So I think it's a good conversation about the makeup of the board.
Well, we have, and I have encouraged that the board or a member of the board is present at these hearings, because at these hearings, we hear these measures, we hear from the public, they can hear from us. And every time we've heard this measure, it's always been supportive of financial literacy. For them not to know or understand that, and yes, they're volunteers, but they agree to serve, and so they're shirking their responsibilities by not even have a discussion or have a board agenda item. And today, we have nobody from the Board of Education here, do we? So again, they seem to not be taking this thing seriously, or taking our committee or the legislature or the public's views seriously to be involved or be on Zoom or be in this hearing, which is very troubling.
I agree.
Members, any questions? Any questions?
So I guess, so was there any action at the board then? So it was just an overview of the PTP, and that was the discussion at the board, from your understanding?
From what I remember about that board agenda is, so there were 3 different task forces at the time that were created. And basically they're looking at these hot topics that come up every year at the legislature. So computer science, financial literacy, and I believe civic engagement. I was part of the computer science and financial literacy, and what they did is they took each of those 3 reports and then brought it to the board for awareness and discussion. But again, that memory is serving me correctly or not, I don't remember a follow-up meeting where any formal action was taken on either of those 3 potential graduation requirements. So I think one of the hopes with a resolution like this is that it does build some momentum to actually have that vote one day, and students actually have that high quality financial literacy experience before they graduate.
We can, the DOE.
Yep, DOE, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beard.
Thanks for being here. So I guess maybe you can explain to us, because my understanding was that there was going to be some, deeper dive into financial literacy, and I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around of what action actually happened
Yes.
on your commitment to financial literacy.
Yep, you are correct. And the department has adopted the Jumpstart Financial Literacy Standards. So any program that is approved to be used for financial literacy does address all of these national standards, not just hopping on for 30 minutes to learn financial literacy. So the department is absolutely committed. We've heard the students as well to implementing a robust financial literacy curriculum in our secondary schools. So starting in school year 26-27, completing a course that addresses our adopted Jumpstart National Financial Literacy Standards is expected. So starting with the freshman class of 2026, so that means the graduating class of 2030, will all have graduated with a course in financial literacy that addresses all of those standards. By incorporating the financial literacy coursework into the PTP, which is a personal transition plan that is a tool that students, it helps them with post-secondary, but it's also, it can be a repository of coursework taken. That is a credited course. And one of the, starting with the class of 2030, which they would be freshmen in school year 26-27, all students have to have completed a financial literacy course and have it recorded in their PTP, which is a required credit for graduation.
So how are they going to fit that in? Is it an elective or is it a
There's,
required
so
class?
it's not a one-size-fits-all. We do have options for this. So the first option is a standalone elective course. So schools already do and can continue to do or start new courses. A student can take as one of their elective credits financial literacy. If a student chooses, or if the school doesn't offer at this time, to take a standalone course, they might want to take a world language, they might want to participate in CTE, they might want to join our JROTC. So if they don't want to use their elective credit for financial literacy, it's still a requirement for graduation. Schools have the opportunity to embed the financial literacy standards, which are well-defined in existing coursework. Or option 3, a student can take a self-paced course by very reputable programs. And if we're happy to show you those programs, they have been vetted. They're not just a one-shot 20-minute, I've taken a financial literacy course. Any program that is synchronous or asynchronous has been vetted to meet our adopted Jumpstart financial literacy standards. So schools can use either advisory or homeroom. These are just some options where students complete their financial literacy coursework in a schedule that has been developed by the school. And the fourth option that students have that they're currently doing in some areas is taking the financial literacy course as a asynchronous self-paced course during the summer. Some schools have opened up spaces after school where students go to report to complete their financial literacy coursework, which they are engaged in through a vetted synchronous or asynchronous financial literacy program.
So it seems like it's great that you have a lot of options, but my fear is, especially if you take option number 2, which is leave it to the school to embed it into the curriculum, I feel like you're going to get a whole lot of different outcomes of what the delivery is going to be. And, and it's good in some respects if you're a high quality learner, but, if it's not your interest, you're just kind of, pushing it along. And I think, the whole purpose of this is to teach people okay, you know, the basics that there should be a baseline understanding of how to balance your checkbook, how to manage your finances. And so I hope you folks have a plan of making sure that that baseline is happening in some of the schools that may be like, okay, I'm just going to embed in my curriculum, so we just check it off the list, and then you get really lower quality, right?
You're absolutely correct on that, and that is the most difficult option. And in the review, which is not comprehensive yet, it's looking like the most natural fit would be in courses such as AP Business with personal finance, and not all schools offer that anyway. So it would be a very robust task to implement those standards in an existing course, because the existing course is also held to the content that gives it its ACCN number. So you're absolutely correct. That would be probably the most challenging, but there are some courses, like the courses I just mentioned, where it could be a fit and not
Right.
impact the integrity of the course.
So when will you have some preliminary data? Because you're going to start next year, right?
Correct.
So you guys should at least have some semblance of a plan, I would assume, unless they take it in later years. What year do they start taking it?
So it is 4 years. So it is 4 years. And currently, we do have the data for the students who are taking financial literacy, and it's not every student. And the expectation and the requirement is, in order to graduate in 2030, everyone has to have taken it. So the numbers will skyrocket after this, but we do have the numbers of students who are taking financial literacy as an elective course. We also have the numbers who are taking the courses such as EverFi Financial Literacy Education Program. So we do have the data of what exists, and we will continue to collect the data moving forward. But again, if financial literacy is required as part of a graduation requirement, that it is, you have to take it before you've met your requirements for graduation.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, to follow up on that, so when will the option 2 have it embedded? When will, because they should be able to start in 2026.
It will start, the options, and these are just options. So if a school elects not to embed it in existing coursework, that's the school decision.
Okay.
What is not negotiable is that all schools must offer financial literacy starting with school year 2026, so that students graduating in the class of 2030 have a financial literacy.
So the options is not the students' options, it's the options for the school.
Correct.
Okay, I thought it was for the students, but now you're leaving up to the school.
Well, a student can take a course if the school offers it as an
Understand, but it's-
elective, but
right.
they might not choose to take the elective. They might choose another elective and still have the opportunity to take
Right, but
one
if
of
they
the other.
chose number 2 and the school didn't offer that, didn't have that embedded in, that wouldn't be an option.
Well, they wouldn't choose number 2 because the school doesn't
Right, so
offer it.
that wouldn't be an option for the student.
Correct.
Right, so the
Correct.
student would be left with only 3 options.
Correct.
Right. And I have concerns about 3 and 4, because this is self-paced, this is async. Async, they can turn on the video and walk away.
These courses have been vetted. They've
I understand that, but they still can turn it on and walk away. Because it's done with no professor on the.
then they might
web.
pass the exams already knowing the content.
Yeah, but they might not understand, they might be able to answer the test questions and pass the test questions, but common sense or actual practice of it, they might not have an idea. I've had students graduating from top schools here in the state, and when it came to understanding these things, they knew nothing. I'm not going to name the schools, obviously, but they knew nothing. So that's the joke that goes around, you know? So you can pass the test, but still not be competent in that area, especially if it's an async class. So again, the task force and everything that points to that this should be embedded into the curriculum or be a standalone and not be an async course that anybody can just turn on the computer and then walk away. So I don't understand your data, and the fact that if the school doesn't do number 2, and if the student doesn't take the standalone, they're obviously going to choose to do an async class. And I don't think that that achieves the purpose of what we've been pushing. And I would hope that the Department of Education would be more in line with wanting to make sure that our students leave DOE with a solid foundation for financial literacy, if nothing else.
And these courses do allow a student to leave with a solid
It
foundation in
doesn't
financial
Can you
literacy.
tell me if it's an async self-paced? I tend to disagree.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not, okay, moving on. Requesting concurrent resolution 196 and SR 184, requesting Department of Education to develop a standardized bell schedule framework for department schools. And we start with Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Senator Hashimoto, Tammy Chun, Deputy Superintendent. The Department of Education provides comments on this resolution about mandating a standardized bell schedule at each of the different grade spans. Currently, each school's bell schedule is set to meet school's needs. The bell schedule is established through a collaborative process that is led by school administration and based on decision rules that are established in the HSTA collective bargaining agreement. Schools' bell schedules must meet the minimum instructional time that's in statute. If a collaborative process does not result in an approved bell schedule, the school would default to one of the model bell schedules that the department maintains. So this resolution, moving all schools in elementary, middle, and high respectively, would create a one-size-fits-all bell schedule, which is not flexible to schools' needs. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have anyone else testifying on this measure. Can you just sit there? Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Hearing none. Okay, so Tammy, a tiered bell schedule. So a standardized schedule for elementary, standardized for middle, standardized for high school, and if you read the resolution, it does say requested to consult with school administrators, teachers, collective bargaining, representative, parents, students, transportation providers, in the development of a standardized bell schedule framework. So that is all talked about in this measure. So we're not saying that you're going to, or we will amend the resolution, not to say that you're going to implement it, but you're going to come up with some kind of a plan and proposal to be looked at and discussed, because as you said in other situations, or not just you yourself, Department of Education, is that things keep changing and that we keep wanting to improve. And so perhaps it is time to really look at the bell schedule in coordination with buses, the need for drivers, the lack of buses, perhaps school buses, or transportation available to the students, with all kinds of changes that are going on, that this is what this resolution is geared towards.
So, Senator, we definitely are going to be relooking at what we currently call the model bell schedule that's referenced in the collective bargaining agreement with HSTA, which meets the minimum instructional requirements as well as the collective bargaining agreements. We're definitely doing that. That's a collaborative process. Moving all schools, all elementary, all middle, and all high to the same bell schedule is a bigger decision. We can have that conversation as part of the model bell schedule.
And that's what this resolution calls for. Thank you. Any other questions, members? Senator Hayashi, Tammy?
I guess, so have there been any preliminary, looks at some type of unification? I know when we were having concerns over the buses, your former facilities person, maybe 2 facilities people ago, essentially said that you were looking at the Campbell area to figure out some type of bell schedule adjustments, right? But I don't know, what is the current strategy?
Sure. At the complex area level, there have been discussions led by complex area superintendents about whether coordinating bell schedules in the complex area in the region would help us to get maximize for more bus routes. So that discussion, I'm just going to double check with our student transportation. They have had those discussions and made some changes in some cases But that was a coordinated schedule as opposed to a uniform standardized schedule.
But I would assume that those conversations need to flow up, right? In terms of, okay, what does a master schedule look like that's coordinated amongst the state? But if you're not having those conversations, kind of hard to like figure out what the direction is that we should be heading.
I think that we definitely have been tracking those conversations about coordinating school schedules to help with the school bus. I think the
But it's
schedule,
not only school bus, though,
Correct.
it's many other things, right?
yes, but we have not, that conversation has not moving to more uniform schedules at this time.
Okay. But, so what is, if we don't pass this reso, what are you guys going to do?
Well, we are already going to convene the stakeholder group that will look at reviewing the model schedules. So those would be, so in the collective bargaining process currently, schools have the flexibility, or sorry, not collective bargaining. In the way it's school schedules, bell schedules are set up, schools have flexibility to propose a schedule that meets the minimum instructional time, as well as the requirements of the collective bargaining agreement and their instructional needs at the school.
Right.
But to approve that schedule, and changing schedules are hard at the school, you need to get agreement from the teachers and I'm not remembering exactly right now what percentage have to agree on the new schedule. Two-thirds need to agree on the schedule. Two-thirds is a high bar. And so if the teachers can't reach agreement on a new schedule, then they default to this model schedule.
Okay.
So we're going to convene a work group to meet and look at the model schedules and propose other, refresh the options.
Okay. But then there's no consideration then, once the school approves it, then somebody's going to look at it from a regional perspective?
We could consider doing that. That's not, it just hadn't been part of
That's currently not in
our.
the process. I'm
that's
just trying to
currently
understand what is the process
Yeah,
right now.
that's currently not, hang on, let me just double check. So, yeah,
Right, so you could have a holiday on one, waiver day on one day, yet the middle school is a waiver day on another day.
Oh.
And then the parents are like, okay, what do I do with my kid who that has one, elementary's off, middle school has to go to school, middle school has another day that they're off, right?
So waiver days are non-instructional days, that's a different process that's a different concept than bell schedule.
Well,
So understanding the
is there,
concept.
right? You start at a certain time, right?
Yes, the start
it's
and end.
different, and I pick up another kid at a different time. It's just, I think it has to be logical, right? For it all to make sense. And so I think why I bring it up is because I think we're at a point of I think, great, you want to give the schools some flexibility and power, but then it just creates other unintended consequences, right?
So Senator, the approach that started with Act 51 was to give more flexibility and authority for school level decision-making, because they know their students best, they know their community the best, and or to organize education at that level with some checks and balances. And so the bell schedule has been part of that work, and we know that over the last 20 years, that student achievement has increased, and so I think we have, but we can always look to operational efficiencies, and so we'll take that back to our complex area superintendents and discuss how we can
Well, in theory, we're
approach
supposed to
that.
have a unified calendar as well, right? I
We
sat on that committee when I was a
Yes.
student, so I know.
So we do have we have a
Right after Act 51 was passed.
Yes. So we do have a common school
We're
calendar.
supposed to.
Well, we do. The exception is that schools might have the non-instructional days are floating.
That's right. So I don't know, we gotta really think about I think the ease of use of all this and the integration of all this. As I said, I understand where you're coming from with Act 51. I know the whole genesis of Act 51, but then there's a level of coordination that still needs to happen. Right.
So just to clarify for everyone, we do have the overall calendar is common, though, with the start and end times, and all being the same, and the start and end times of the quarters and breaks are the same. But to your point, Senator, there are different days that schools have their non-instructional days scheduled.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, we are moving on to SCR 200, SR 188, requesting Department of Education to implement the National Education Association Micro-Credentials Pilot Program developed in collaboration with the Department's Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design and the Hawaii State Teachers Association. And we have Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Kim, Vice Chair Kidani, members of the committee. Sean Bacon speaking on behalf of the department. Department stands on its written testimony, and we support SCR 200. And we are preparing at this point right now to launch a pilot program during the 26-27 school year that will allow our teachers to earn professional development courses and able to reclassify through the NEA's micro-credentials. So we stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Osatui for HSTA with baby.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair. Sarah Milianta-Laughlin on behalf of HSTA. I was excited to see this one. The micro-credential thing is something done nationally where a lot of other states already offer credit for these modules that have been built. I think it's important too because these have been vetted by national teachers. I've actually helped write some of these modules myself. I want to find ways for our teachers to get credits and reclassify so they can move up the pay scale. For instance, I've kind of told the story to this board before that I was able to get my master's through HSTA and Spalding University, and I wanted that for a long time. So those master's credits allowed me to get from class 2, even where I was with 11 years experience, to now class 5 finally. These micro-credentials, if these were available, I would completely do all of them to be able to reclass up the pay scale. Also with us today, we have Diane Gibson, who's HSTA's professional development specialist. She can answer more questions about how micro-credentialing works, and she's available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Johnny May Perry, who's obviously not here. Anyone else wishing to testify on SCR 200, SR 188? Hearing no others. Questions, members? I guess Sean, you come forward. So Sean, what has been the reason for the delay in the implementation of this agreement?
So currently, we've been working with Diane, who's here also. She's been great to work with on this. We have been working about the last year to get this implemented. We've been working with our Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design to kind of vet some of the courses. Currently, right now, a consultation was sent over to the HSTA in February, and we want to just ensure that we're all on the same page. And at the end of the consultation, we plan to implement and move forward with the process.
So the consultation isn't concluded?
It is not concluded at this point.
Can I have Diane, can you come up? My understanding is completed. Diane, is it not completed?
My understanding is that Colleen spoke with Michael on Friday. So Colleen Bird, who is our negotiation person, spoke with Michael Azuma regarding the memo that was sent to us and the letter that was sent to us to confirm that, yes, what was in there is correct, so that we can move forward with the process to launch it.
So it's been completed as of April 1st? The notice is given that is completed?
Well, it may have been completed between the two of them. I don't know if Michael has actually spoken to the other stakeholders.
And who's Michael?
Michael is one of our chief negotiators in our office.
So aren't you in contact with him on a regular basis?
I am. I will go back and check with him, but I have not seen anything official come back to say from the HSTA that they are ready to move forward with this. But I believe we're pretty much on the same page and ready to go with this at this point.
So is Terry Usijima here? In my understanding, the agreement was made with Terry Usijima and HSTA back in July of 2025. And that this was supposed to get done the summer of 2025.
So
And that
I think
February
there's, I
13
think,
was a consultation letter.
So I think there's multiple components in it, and there's different parts of the department. So there is the Office of Curriculum and Instructional Design. They're typically the office that does review the different courses to ensure that they meet the reclassification criteria. And then the Office of Talent Management, which I'm overseeing, does the collection of the credits, ensuring that the appropriate movement towards the reclassification does happen. So it is a work between a few of the different offices, and also with this project too, working closely with the HSTA.
Just to clarify, the final work with the committee that I was working on was done in March in 2025 to be sent forward. At the last TECC meeting, superintendent and I and Sean talked about that it was ready to go forward. After that, we did not hear anything back. It wasn't until February of this year when I was asked how the pilot was going, and I explained that it wasn't because we hadn't done the meet and confer process, that it was looked into, and I do have to thank superintendent for that, because he immediately got on it, looked into it, and found out why it wasn't moving forward, and we had a letter within 2 weeks.
So the TECC meeting was when?
The last TECC meeting last year was April or May. I believe it was April.
Of 2025?
Yes.
Right, and my understanding is an agreement with Terry Ushijima and HSTA was done in July of 2025. So Superintendent, you were not aware until she told you that the process wasn't moving forward?
I did speak with,
Can you switch places with?
when I did speak with Diane, she notified me that there was some delay. So I did look into it and work with Sean's office, and it's my understanding too that that the process is completed, though we have sent the document to HST, and we're waiting for it to be returned to us.
Yeah, but it seems like it's been taken a year or 10 months that these processes should have taken place, and I guess you probably understood that it was, and it wasn't. So what, again, where's the disconnect?
So we can double check, Senator. My understanding is we're waiting for it to be returned. Micro-credentialing is we are, as ASB can share, it is a way for us to work together with HSTA to give teachers the opportunities for professional development designed by teachers and with us in conjunction. So definitely we're in favor of it.
No,
So
we
we're just
know
waiting for it to
that,
go ahead.
and, but I'm just trying to get to it. Why does things get delayed? Where is it? There's a disconnect,
So,
obviously,
right,
because my understanding is this agreement was done and with HSTA, which is what's required, back in July of 2025, and we just heard from Diane saying that it was in March or April, and that she didn't hear anything after that. So again, until she ran into you and told you, and then in 2 weeks you got it done.
Well,
which is
we
great.
got the process going, Senator, and so it's my understanding that the document was sent to HST, we're waiting for it to be returned. We will follow up with them today.
Was it returned?
The document was sent to us February 11th. Colleen and I conferred Friday because she wanted to verify some information with me. And it's my understanding that she spoke to her counterpart in the DOE on, I'm sorry, not Friday of last week, that was a holiday, Wednesday of last week. And that we are letting them know that it should be moving forward. And in fact, we are actually ready to start now.
Yeah, so why
Since it
don't-
was supposed to start last summer, we're ready to actually start now
So
with
why-
it if
What's holding it
possible.
up from starting now?
We have not received anything back from HSTAs at this point right now. Just confirm
Maybe
that
we
with
can
my
check.
Okay, so if
Yeah, well, I
you
can double
confirm
check
that it's been received or you get it today, why can't you
As soon
start
as
it?
we can confirm it with them, then we can get the information out to our teachers, their members, and we can collaborate on how we're gonna communicate that and get the process
Okay,
started.
so you don't have to wait until the fall of 2026.
And the courses that they will be taking, any course that's
Wouldn't it have been helpful if before you came today that you would double check? So that maybe you would have gotten the responses, so you could have responded in a different manner?
But my understanding, the last that I spoke, and I just actually got information from Mike Azuma, we have not received anything officially in writing back from the HSTA as of this point right now.
Okay, so I will follow up with Colleen once I'm out
I
of
would like
this
to see
meeting.
that in writing.
Yeah.
Because that goes back, you wrote this testimony for '06. Okay, it's dated 4/06, and this testimony, you're saying that, once you receive the completion consultation process with HSTA, so I called them to find out where it was. So simple, pick up the phone, find out, is it complete? Yes, it's complete. So I don't understand why, in preparation for this hearing, that you wouldn't double check to make sure that where the process is. Right? Because then you're saying you're not gonna start until the upcoming 2026 year, when we can really actually start sooner if we double check to see where it's at.
Because the courses that they are able to take with this part of the consultation is any of the micro-credential courses from July of 23, I
It's
believe.
July of 23 to June 30th of
So
2027.
if they've taken any of them already, they'll be able to use those towards reclassification credits. So the reclassification process happens twice annually. So they'll be able to submit those courses once we get the information out for the reclassification for the following window.
I do just want to clarify that there are only 35 out of the 250 available micro-credentials that are approved for this pilot at the moment that the DOE has agreed to allow teachers to use.
You know the reason why only that many?
I was told that it was to keep it small to see if it worked. I did recommend that there be some other ones added to it, but they weren't added. And right now, we don't really, and this is something we need to confer on, we don't have a process for adding other ones to the list as we move through that pilot. I know that it was mentioned that the delay was that they had to be vetted for reclassification, but these are micro-credentials that are designed by the NEA for teachers, and they have actually been reviewed nationally. So they should be exactly what teachers need, and
They don't have to be revetted, is what you're saying?
well, I'm not sure why they have to be so vetted in the first place because of the organization that they're coming from. If it were some company trying to make money off of the micro-credentials or something like that, then that would be very prudent. But these are designed for teachers by the National Teachers Association. So, they're very, very meticulous in what they're putting out there because if they're not, they get scrutinized heavily.
Questions, Senator?
Thank you. What's the estimated cost of this pilot program?
So currently, right now, for the teachers to be able to take any of these NEA micro-credentials, as long as they are an HSTA member, the cost for them to take these is zero cost. If they're a non-HSTA or non-NEA members, it's, I believe, $75 per micro-credential.
What does it cost the department?
So for the department, I mean, what will happen is they will be able to then reclassify towards the next credit or the next class. Currently, right now, for a teacher to reclassify from one class to another, like when we added the class 8 in the past year to go from like class 7 to class 8, it is approximately a 4% increase in their salary. So it's going to depend again on how many teachers go through this micro-credential process, and I think that's part of the pilot is to see how many actually will go through it, and to see from there what the anticipated cost may be for the department. So again, we wanted to start with it small. I think like Diane has also mentioned too, there are many other courses, and depending on how this works, we'd like to expand it to others as we move forward in this process.
So, sorry, Senator.
Well, just to get more information on it, you guys both agree that the program is warranted and wanted, but have you guys sat down to work out the details rather than us having to urge you guys to do this?
I think we're really close at this point. I think is with this consultation, which is a formal process that is required. Once we get over this hump, we'll be ready to get the information out. I think HSTA does always a great job of getting information out to their members. We will also communicate it to our teachers so that we can get this process started.
So how far are we from the finish line? What else needs to happen for this to be completed?
So it sounds like I need to work with our lead negotiator to get the formal letter sent over to them. And then as the DOE would need to send the memo out, and from our side, it's just a matter of sending out through member matters that that the DOE has approved this pilot, and then teachers will have, they already have access to everything. It's just now getting the information out, which on our end is very quickly. It's a week at the most.
Thank you.
Okay, again, I don't think there's any disagreement about this program. I think the problem is that the timing and the delay from the department from when agreements were made with HSTA, which is why we have this resolution. Again, you guys have to look at why these resolutions occur or these bills occur, because there's complaints out there that you folks are not acting timely. Took you a year or 10 months to get the process going when already agreements were made with HSTA. So again, and then you come here not double checking to see where it's at, so you can give us a good sense. So, and luckily I try to find out before I hear these resolutions where it's at. I think you can do the same, or you should be doing the same, right?
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, finally, we're on SCR 203, SR 191, urging this body to establish a public charter school working group to examine and support systems available to state public charter schools and determine whether the establishment of a centralized public charter school district or similar service cooperative would provide improved support to public charter schools. And first to testify is Edno. You're not Edno, but please come forward, identify yourself.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, PJ4, Deputy Director on behalf of Dr. Edno, Executive Director. And we stand on our submitted testimony in support of the intent of this resolution and look forward to working with all the parties involved and making some constructive steps forward.
Okay, thank you. John Thatcher.
Yes, I am not John Thatcher. My name is Gene Zaro. I am the chair of the Hawaii Public Charter Schools Network. Testimony was submitted, and I'll stand on those comments. But I would like to make some comments as one of the founders of Kihei Charter School, who is ending its 25th year, this graduating class, and I'm on their governance board. So thank you, Chair Kim, Vice Chair Kidani, Senator Hashimoto, and Senator DeCourt for the time. For me, it is a good idea whenever stakeholders can come together to explore the good things and the things that need solutions when it comes to a state institution, and that state institution is charter schools. So bringing people together to address the successes and the chronic issues is always a good idea. We're not quite sure what's going to come out of this, but bringing people together to do this is a good thing. So that's all I need to say, but I'm here to answer questions.
Okay, why don't you just stay right there. Matthew Zatello, not here. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, I have a question. So Hawaii Charter Schools Network, you represent them. So do you folks have a website?
Yes,
And is it functional?
yes. If you were looking for it, it's Hawaii Public Charter Schools Network.
Okay, Hawaii Public. So I'm not sure if SMA, we looked up the right can you double check that? Yeah, apparently we looked up Hawaii Charter School Network and
And-
found that the website no longer is functional and social media was last updated in 2023. So
Yeah,
I just want to make sure it's a current entity.
It's working,
It's working.
yes.
Okay, and you've updated it prior to 2023?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we'll double check on that
Yeah.
to make sure. Okay, members, any
What is
questions?
that website again? I'm sorry.
It could be Hawaii Public Charter Schools Network.org or hpcsn.org. I personally never go to the website because I pretty
Why?
much live it.
Confusing, I can see why.
Okay, we just want to
Thank you.
make sure it's a proper entity that will be heading up and doing this.
Yes.
So, no discussion. Okay, members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, we are going into recess for decision making. Call back to order the Committee on Education. We are in decision-making. Members, we're looking at Senate Concurrent Resolution 112 and SR 105. This is requesting the university to collaborate with the Teacher Standard Board, et cetera, and this is for the science of reading. The recommendation, members, is to amend the resolution to include the UH Dean of Education as well as the Board of Education, the Board of Regents to be notified on this resolution. And also to, let me see. To integrate what was discussed regarding the different languages. I think it was brought up by Deborah Halbert on that, about some of the intricacies, and so to embed that into the resolution in consideration that it is not just a one-time standalone, but obviously it's already, some of it's already embedded, they update that. Okay, so you can get that language. Any discussion, members? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair votes aye on SCR 112 and SR 105.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Fukunaga excused, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Picor.
Aye.
Motion's adopted.
Thank you. On Senate Concurrent Resolution 114 and Senate Resolution 107, this is to conduct quarterly performance and management audits on the department. Recommendation, members, is to amend this to have the DOE internal auditor do not quarterly but semi-annually performance management audits and make technical amendments and non-substantive amendments. Any discussions? Hearing none, Chair votes aye.
SR 107 and SCR.
No, 114 and SR 107, sorry. SR 107, you're right.
And
SCR.
SCR 114 and SR 107.
Correct, yes. With
Chair
amendments.
votes aye, with amendments. Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Fukunaga excused, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Picor.
Aye.
Motion's adopted, Madam Chair.
Thank you. For SCR 198 and SR 186, this is requesting the auditor conduct a comprehensive performance and fiscal audit on the governance structure. This recommending that we amend this as we discussed during the question and answer, and that we amend it to say, requesting the auditor to conduct a performance audit of the process by which administrative and program positions are created and approved within the Department of Education, and to review the department's supervision and evaluation of complex area superintendents. Let's see, also making technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion, members? So this narrows it down, as was expressed by our state auditor. So I think that it becomes more manageable. Any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
Issues adopted.
Okay, and with Senate Concurrent Resolution 101, Senate Resolution 95, this is on the electric school buses. The recommendation is to defer, understanding that we do not have a fleet of buses, and we really have to go out and hire these bus companies, so we don't have a control over what kind of fleet of buses they're using. Any discussion, any opposition to deferring? Hearing none. SCR 113 and SR 106, this requests the Department of Education to submit a report to the legislature detailing farm-to-school implementation, local food procurement, et cetera, recommendation with concurrence of the author of the measure, we will defer this resolution. Okay, any objections? Hearing none. Okay, SCR 194 and SR 183, urging Department of Education to meet the official criteria necessary to officially recognize cheerleading as a Title IX sport in Hawaii. Recommendation is we pass with technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? Parade. Let's hear it. TEAM, yay team. Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye.
Let me hear A, let me hear Y, let me hear E.
Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Fukunaga is excused, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
Issues adopted, Madam Chair.
Part of being on the pep squad.
Yay, team.
Yay, team, go ahead. Okay, SCR 195, SR 192, requesting the Board of Education in collaboration with the Department of Education to revise public high school graduation requirements to include successful completion of a standalone financial literacy course. The recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion?
Okay.
Hearing none, chair votes aye.
This is for.
195 and 192.
Okay.
With amendments. No, not as is, sorry, as is.
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Fukunaga excused, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
Measures adopted, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and we are on Senate Concurrent Resolution 196 and Senate Resolution 184. This is the development of a standardized bell schedule. Recommendation in consideration of the discussion, we will amend this measure to state request the Department of Education to develop a proposal for a tiered, coordinated, standardized bell schedule. We definitely want it coordinated, but we want some standardization and tiered in the sense that we're looking at in elementary school, middle school, high schools separately, so that they could definitely not have to be the same as a high school as if you're in elementary school. And also that the non-instructional days also be looked at as far as coordination. And that this draft proposal will be submitted to the legislature 30 days prior to the session, and for further discussion. So it's not necessarily a proposal that we're going to be implemented, but to get the feedback on that. And it is clear that it would be in consultation with school administrators, teachers, collective bargaining, representative, parents, students, transportation providers, in this development of this proposal. Okay, so any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye.
This is for SR 184 and SCR 146.
No, this is SR 196 and 184. Did you say that?
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Yeah, and in the committee report, we could put, they wanted to create a working group. Okay, chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye, Fukunaga excused, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
Issues adopted, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And for SR 200 and SR 188, this requesting Department of Education for the micro-credential pilot program, recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye on SCR 200 and SR 188 as is. Vice Chair.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Excuse Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort. Aye. Motion is adopted.
Thank you. And finally, SCR 203 and SR 191. This is for the Public Charter Schools Working Group. Recommendation is to pass as is, and if for some reason the language of referring to the working group, or is that to the website, the exact name, Hawaii Public Charter Schools Network or Hawaii Charter Schools Network, whatever the correct is, that we will make that correction in the resolution. Any discussions? Hearing none.
This is to pass with amendments.
What do we have to say with amendments, or?
If the testifier says the name is correct, as is okay.
Well, but he wasn't sure if it said Hawaii Public Charter Schools Network or Hawaii Charter Schools Network. Yes.
I just spoke with John Thatcher,
Okay.
and due to the passing of Steve Hirakami, the website was being reconstructed.
I see.
So it is not up at the exact moment, but it should be up within 10 days or so.
Okay.
Due to Steve was our treasurer and handled all those kinds of things. And John absorbed his workload as well as his own workload.
So we have the right name. Hawaii
Yes,
Charter.
so I will get you the information very soon.
Okay, so recommendation is to pass that is. Okay, chair votes aye.
SR 191 and SCR 203 pass
As is.
as is. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Do not be excused. Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
Motion is adopted.
Thank you very much. That ends our agenda.